Hey guys, what's good? It's your boy Oreo, and be amazed as we check out this channel called Be Amazed. And honestly, this is how you know I'm running out of ideas and running out of videos to watch because we are about to check out a video on why do bees die after stinging. I know this is stuff that maybe like a good handful of us probably thought about, but never really looked into why this is actually a thing. Like these are like these are one of the world's questions that it's like we ask the question, but we don't really want to know the answer. Well, today we are going to find out the answer whether we want to or not. So with that being said, let's get right on into it.
Have you ever been stung by a honeybee? Man,
Yes,
it's the worst. It burns for hours and then swells up, leaving a big red welt for days. But
that's actually not what happened to me. So I got a hole in my ear, and people think that I got my ears pierced, and I never got my ears pierced. And the reason why I never got my ears pierced is because I was definitely afraid of needles, and it was so bad. Like my fear of needles were like really, really bad. So I know this wasn't done by like someone trying to pierce my ear. I got stung by a bee when I left the house and I was on my way walking with my brother. I was going to my friend Joe's house. He was going to his friend Patrick's house, which was literally like along the way. So I walked with him through the alleyway, literally like a few houses away from my friends, and then I got stung in the ear. He turned around and came back up, and I was so in shock and I was so like hurt that I didn't move. So he picked me up and carried me back to the house. I remember that vividly. I think I was like 10 when it happened, and those holes never closed up. It never went away. And typically with like piercings and stuff, the hole is supposed to close up, so it's supposed to like it's supposed to close up, but this hole is never closed up, and I've never stuck anything in it to keep it from closing. So that right there should tell you something. I don't know, but yeah.
as bad as it feels, it's actually the bee that gets the raw end of this deal. Because a few minutes after it stung you, it dies. Wait, why would an animal have a self-defense mechanism that's more deadly to it than the thing it's attacking? That doesn't make sense. Well, there's actually a lot
Right.
more to this kamikaze defense mechanism than meets the eye. So put on some thick gloves and get ice ready, because we're about to take a pretty painful look into the secrets of bee stings.
Again, this is stuff that we did not ask for. Like we asked the questions, like we're not that curious, but we asked the question, not expecting to really get so much of an answer, knowing that whatever answer we get isn't really going to affect their daily lives, but we still ask it anyway. Right? This is definitely one of those cases.
Step-by-step sting. You might not want to admit it, but if you've ever been stung by a bee, it was probably your fault. Sorry to be the bearer of bad.
Yeah, he's not lying. It is your fault. Like, bees won't sting you unless they feel threatened, unless you do something like swat at them or something. Yeah, they're attacking you. Yeah, your automatic response will be to try to swat it away, get it away from you, obviously. But honestly, I feel like if you just leave it be and just pretend like it's not even there, it won't even bother you. It won't even sting you. So yeah.
News, but in general, bees only sting humans if we approach their hives or threaten them with aggressive or reckless behavior.
Yeah. So swatting at them. That's what I'm talking. If you're swatting at them, it may seem like you're being aggressive to them, and they're like, "Oh no, we gotta take this human down," but then they forget that they die afterwards.
If a bee is hunting for pollen, they'll leave us alone, unless we handle them roughly or step on them. Now, you may have heard that all bees die after stinging. Well, actually, only the honeybee does. When any bee stings you, it simply inserts its stinger into your skin. In the case of honeybees, however, their stinger is made of two barbed lancets, giving it rougher edges that can act as tiny hooks. Because of these lancets, when a honeybee inserts its stinger into the skin, it can't pull the stinger back out. And that doesn't stop the honeybee from trying, though. The second they try to take off, not only is their stinger pulled out, but the muscles, nerves, and parts of their digestive system attached to it are torn out of their backside as well. It's a nasty way to go if you ask me, but there's an even more tragic element to it. When
Yeah.
honeybees sting insects, as they often do when bugs try to attack the hive, they can remove their stingers just fine. It's all down to the amount of fiber in the animal's skin that causes the stinger to lodge. Those barbed lancets are designed to dig in as deep as possible, and when it comes to a mammal's fibrous skin, there's no removing that stinger without ripping it out. So those poor honeybees have no idea that when they sting us, the impact will kill them. But back to us humans. What impact does a bee sting really have on our skin? Well, bee stings inject a venomous toxin called melittin, which gives the sting its painful effect. And if you're allergic to bee stings, it's melittin that you're allergic to. The toxin causes redness and swelling at the site of the attack, and since bee venom dissolves in water, it's able to spread around the human body with ease. If you weren't aware, 60% of the human body is water, so there's...
I thought it was 80. I thought it was 80. Somebody told me 80% of... Oh, shit. No, I got that mixed up. 80% of the world, 80% of Earth is made of water. And it's 20% that is land. Never mind. My bad. Continue.
a lot of spreading to be done. Now, if you are ever stung by a honeybee, you must remember to remove the stinger immediately. Alongside those muscles and nerves, the pulsating sacs of melittin the honeybee leaves behind will continue to pump venom into the skin until they're removed. So you better pick them out as soon as possible. The longer it's in there, the more melittin is injected, and the itchier and more swollen the area will get. As this poor guy found out when a bee stung his tongue. Ugh, I'm reaching for the ice just thinking about it. Sounds painful. But you know what literally can't hurt? Hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. All done?
I thought it was about to be an ad. I was about to hit the... I was about to hit that move.
Great. Now, we've seen how honeybees meet their fate, but why do they decide to sting? And how do they deal with butt-dwelling parasites like this? Well, stick with me to find out. Stingless.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was a... Like, let's be real. Come on, let's be real. At first glance, come on. You thought that was a... Come on. That's insane.
Well, stick with me to find out. Stingless bees. Now, to anyone terrified of bees, what I'm about to say might sound like a joke.
My daughter, 100% terrified of bees. She won't go outside if there's a bunch of bees outside. And I don't blame her. But yeah, she's very afraid of them.
A lot of bees are actually unable to sting. That's right. All male bees and many female bees from different bee families simply cannot sting. In fact, the Andrenidae are an entire family of bees whose stingers are so drastically reduced they couldn't sting you if they wanted to. There's also another group of bees called the Meliponini, also known, literally, as stingless bees. These tend to be found in subtropical regions like Australia, Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Brazil and Mexico. In fact, most bees in Central and South America are stingless. So if you really, really hate bee stings, now you know where to head on vacation. So without a usable stinger, how do stingless bees defend themselves? Well, like many other insects, they bite instead. However, just like their stinging cousins, these bees use their bite to cling on to their enemy to the death, either theirs or the enemy's. So they're just as self-sacrificial as those bees with stingers. On second thought, I take back what I said about ideal vacation destinations. Nowhere is safe. Like regular bees, stingless hives have been known to consist of anywhere between 3,000 to 80,000 workers. That being said, only a small number of stingless bee species produce enough honey to be farmed by humans. But that doesn't mean we haven't found use for them. Because of their relatively harmless nature, many people, especially in Brazil, choose to keep stingless bees as pets. So if you're looking for a pet but don't fancy any of the traditional options, a stingless bee colony might be what you're looking for. It won't require walking, you wouldn't have to pick up its poop, and you could get a little free honey at the end of it. Suddenly my dog is looking like a bit of a bum investment. The stinging scheme. Bringing it back to bees that can sting, have you ever wondered how a bee makes the decision to use its stinger? Well, to answer that question, we first have to understand pheromones. A pheromone is a chemical or a mixture of chemicals released by an organism that affects the behavior of other members of the same species. So it's information communicated mainly by an organism's sense of smell. The idea that there are chemical messages floating around us all the time may sound a bit crazy, but pheromone signaling like this is essential to a bee's survival. For example, a primer pheromone causes long-term changes in the physiology and behavior of a bee. Yep, a chemical signal alone can literally alter a bee's body during development. Whoa. But a releaser pheromone causes a rapid change in behavior. So, alarm pheromones, which are a type of releaser pheromones, are emitted immediately after a bee stings something. This alerts other bees to something like a threat entering the hive, instructing all those that can sense the pheromone to attack the intruder. But when do they know how to stop? Well, a team of researchers from the universities of Constance and Innsbruck helped answer this question in
Is this like in Germany somewhere? What the heck? Are these in Germany somewhere?
2021. They found that bees base their decisions about whether to sting or not almost solely on the amount of this alarm pheromone in the atmosphere. In addition to this, they learned bees hold two internal thresholds that measure the pheromone's level, one that tells them when to begin stinging and one that tells them when to stop, almost like an internal thermometer, but for violence. These pheromones can also help the bees determine the extent of the threat they face, with more pheromones in the air indicating more danger. As such, the bees work out the level of danger via the level of alarm pheromone in the atmosphere. So the more an intruder is stung, the more bees come to fight it off. Considering a single colony can consist of more than 100,000 bees, that's one fight you definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of. Killer bees. Back in 2019, it was estimated that your odds of kicking the bucket because of an allergic reaction to a bee sting was just 1 in 59,507, or 0.00168%. Whew, most of us can breathe easy. Except, those are your odds if you're faced with regular honeybees. Your odds of surviving dramatically decrease if you're faced with the Africanized bees of North and South America. These are bees that were taken to Brazil in 1956 by
Oh, well, okay, well, cool. I know where I'm not going next year. I know exactly where I'm not going. Y'all, yeah, nah, Brazil will never see me. Brazil will never see me.
scientists attempting to develop a honeybee better suited to a tropical climate. The African bees were placed in quarantine, but 26 queens broke out. The queens then began breeding with native Brazilian bees, resulting in a species of ultra-aggressive, ultra-lethal mutant bees who have formed hives all across the Americas. Now tell
So this species of bee was man-made, basically. This was done because of some idiot. Got it. Understand. Understand. All right. So not only am I not going to Brazil, but I also need to know where this man is located, so I know never to go set foot near him. Let me go get a restraining order on this guy, on a guy I'm never going to meet, real quick.
Tell me that's not the best villain origin story you've ever heard. These Africanized bees are very defensive and will fight back with all guns blazing, or more accurately, all stingers stinging at even the smallest provocation. I'm not joking. This species have fatally injured more than 1,000 people, with victims found with 10 times more stings than European bees. Not only that, they've been known to chase people for up to a quarter of a mile. Now, this scarily high death rate isn't because Africanized bees have a more venomous sting than others. It's that they attack in huge numbers, with reports of swarms reaching a terrible.
Bro, these bees are on some Jujutsu Kaisen type timing. They jump people. These bees jump people? That's crazy. Like I said, I'm never going to Brazil. I'm not getting jumped out there. Sorry, that's not happening.
terrifying 800,000 bees. I suppose the only question now is how many stings a person can withstand before the worst happens. Well, the average person can tolerate around 10 stings for each pound of their body weight. That means, discounting an allergic reaction, the average adult human can withstand roughly 1,000 stings, whereas a child can only tolerate up to 500. So, versus 800,000 angry Africanized bees, less than 0.2% of the swarm would be enough to end you.
So basically, what I'm hearing is you're done. That's basically what I'm hearing. You're cooked. That's like okay. So an average person can withstand 10 bee stings for every 1 pound of their body weight. So if you take me for example, because I'm 245 pounds, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm 245 pounds. Yes, I know I'm a big guy. So I'm 245 pounds. Times that by 10, and you got 2,450 2,450 stingers. So I can take up to 2,450 stingers. Basically, is what I'm hearing. Got it. But but this one is saying like an average 1,000 though. What was the 1,000 for?
Body weight. That means, discounting an allergic reaction, the average adult human can withstand roughly 1,000 stings, whereas
But then the average person is not the average. But then if you're doing it that way, the average person is not 100 pounds. The average adult is more than 100 pounds. Like statistically speaking, maybe it might be more. It might be more than that. So I don't know. I'm just figuring out it's 10 stings for every pound. So I'm 245 pounds. That would be 2,450 pounds for me, and I guess a child would be half of that. That's what he said. So
a child can only tolerate up to 500. So, versus 800,000 angry Africanized bees, less than 0.2% of the swarm would be enough to end you. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to work on my ability to run a quarter of a mile fast. Wasps, the difference. Now, we couldn't do a video about bees, nature's honey givers, without mentioning wasps, nature's assholes. Unlike a bee's, wasp stingers aren't barbed, meaning they can be used over and over without risk of the creature dying, unfortunately. But while their stings might feel the same, wasp stings are actually made up of a completely different set of toxins. One way to measure this is on the pH scale, which ranks a substance from 0 to 14 depending on how acidic it is. A 0 on the pH scale is purely acidic, like battery acid, and a 14 is entirely alkaline, like drain cleaner. So, as another example, water is a 7 on the pH scale, right in the middle, because it is neither acidic nor alkaline and is therefore classed as neutral. So, where do bee and wasp stings land on the pH scale? Well, with a score of between 4.5 and 5.5, bee stings veer towards being slightly acidic, while with a score of between 6.8 and 6.9, wasp stings are ever so slightly more alkaline. That means bee stings are about as acidic as tomato juice and beer, while wasp stings are about as alkaline as saliva, milk, and urine. Ugh. Given those two comparisons, I'd much rather be stung by a bee. The pH scale not only demonstrates how different bee and wasp stings are, but also why humans have distinct reactions to them. While there are many similarities in the body's reaction to toxins, you might be surprised to discover that people who are allergic to bee stings are not necessarily allergic to wasp stings. And it's the same the other way around, of course. But still, while you're discussing wasp and bee stings, make sure you know wasps the difference. But this is all without mentioning the bee's other asshole cousin, the hornet. Now, technically hornets are a specific type of wasp, but they are so much larger than the average wasp, they've earned their own classification and reputation. Hornets are generally a little friendlier than wasps, but when they do get aggressive, their stings are far more painful because their venom contains a high amount of acetyl.
He looks dangerous. This bee looks dangerous as shit. I wouldn't go anywhere near it. I don't care if it was the safest thing on the planet. I wouldn't go anywhere near that. Sorry. Your color scheme says it all. You look menacing. You look like you could be a problem. I'm good.
Acetylcholine, a powerful pain stimulant, as if they've been designed by Satan himself just to deliver pain. However, they're not immune to pain themselves. Standard hornets can grow up to 2 inches in size, which makes them big enough to be infected by Xenos mautoni, parasites that live inside the hornet's body. The Xenos parasite causes the hornet to drastically alter its behavior, flying to meet other infected hornets so the Xenos parasites can mate. The male parasite exits its host hornet and crawls into a hornet hosting a female parasite. As such, hornets infected with the male parasite will die. When they're removed, the parasites can look like the most dangerous stingers in the insect kingdom, but mercifully, they're more of a danger to the hornets than they are to humans. Sting spawners. Now, I've been calling them stingers, but the scientific name for the pointy end of a bee is actually the ovipositor, and believe it or not, they're intended to do more than just deliver a painful prick. So, what is an ovipositor? Good question, me. Well, an ovipositor is a tube-like organ used by some female organisms, insects in particular, to help maneuver its eggs. As such, ovipositors are designed to prepare space for an egg and then transmit it before attaching it to a surface. So these so-called stingers of bees, as well as wasps, hornets, and ants, are really ovipositors. Except because they've been utilized for another purpose, they're what we call modified ovipositors.
So it's like the needles that they got in when they're doing blood work or when they try and take your blood. You got these needles that have like a little hole at the end of it. So that way when it goes in, the blood is coming through the needle and then through the hose and shit. Or vice versa. When they want to pump saline in you, through that needle, it goes through the hose and through the needle and into your bloodstream or wherever your muscle or whatever the case is. It's kind of like that basically.
In the case of bee stingers, the ovipositors are modified with the venom glands we saw in action earlier. For their part, queen bees, who are the lone reproducers within the colony in most cases, do not have the same ovipositors as your average worker bee. The ovipositor on a queen bee is smaller, smoother, and unbarbed, making it more adept at laying eggs. Something the queen definitely needs, seeing as, at their peak, a healthy queen can lay up to 3,000 eggs a day.
Who 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 put that ribbon on that bee, yo? Bro, who had enough time to make a ribbon for a bee and was like, here you go. I'm gonna put it on you. Like, who? Also, I just want to point this out. There was a video that I saw not too long ago, and it was of this person getting this exterminator removing all the bees from underneath like a floor panel, and there was so many of them, like so many, and it was like the best way to remove bees, because bees essentially are going to follow their queen wherever they go no matter what. So the best idea was to first find their queen and put the queen in a box, so that way the bees will naturally follow the queen and go in the box. And I was thinking to myself, how the fuck are you able to find the bee in that sense? Like, I know the queen bee is supposed to be longer and bigger. I get that much. But like, how do you know what you're looking for with all those bees? Uh, uh, how do you know where to look? Like, it's literally damn near the same thing as finding a needle in a haystack. They all look the same until you look at them very, very up close and you go, oh wait, this one's different. But like, it's such a subtle difference that like a normal person wouldn't spot head on, you know? Especially me, I wouldn't spot it head on. But yeah, I don't know. All right, this video's almost over. Let's get it. Let's get to the end.
But when a queen meets another queen, the ovipositor is used as a stinger and a fight to the death ensues,
Oh
Highlander
damn.
style, because there can be only one. And for their part, worker bees can use their ovipositors for their traditional purpose. If a hive becomes queenless, the pheromones the queen releases to stop ovary development in other female bees is ceased. This means without the queen, the bees' bodies develop the organs they
I was about to say, wait a minute. I just remember somebody said something about if the colony loses their queen, then another one of those bees, uh, like the pheromones are released, and one of the bees gets infected, and they suddenly develop the parts that they need to become the queen bee, and they get altered, and then they suddenly become the new queen bee. I think I said that right. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I remember hearing something about that.
ovipositors for their traditional purpose. If a hive becomes queenless, the pheromones the queen releases to stop ovary development in other female bees is ceased. This means without the queen, the bees' bodies develop the organs they need to reproduce. However, if, by some freak accident, a worker bee tries to lay eggs while the queen is still alive, a conflict would ensue. Looks like there's only room in the hive for one queen bee. Elephant enemies. You may have heard that elephants are hilariously afraid of mice. Well, the jury is still out on whether that's true or not, but there is another animal that definitely haunts an elephant's nightmares. And can you guess which one? Yep,
Bees.
elephants are terrified of bees. As unbelievable as it sounds, the largest land animal in the world reacts wildly to these teeny tiny insects.
I don't get it though. Their skin is like super tough. Like I don't think a stinger is gonna get through. They're basically a tank in a sense. They're basically a giant tank in a sense. So like I don't think those bees can hurt you. Like their stingers is not getting through your tough skin. There's just no way. It's not happening. If anything, they might hurt or kill themselves trying to do it. So I don't get it.
You see, while human skin is penetrable to bees, elephant skin is too tough to even make a dent in. What bees can do is attack the more sensitive parts of an
Like their eyes. Their eyes. You're gonna say their eyes, aren't you?
elephant, like its trunk, mouth, and eyes, in massive swarms, causing it great pain.
Oh.
Now, elephants are so large that they generally have no natural predators, so they're not used to this sort of terrifying invasion. So much so that conservationists actually use this fear as a means of protecting the elephants from poachers and farmers. Researchers and advocates now recommend that farmers border their farms with beehives to keep the elephants off their land, and this works in a whopping 80% of cases. There's just one catch: the farmers have to use real bees. Despite their irrational fear, elephants have the largest brains of any land animal, containing as many neurons as the human brain. This means they're smart enough to tell the difference between an empty beehive and an active one. In some cases, where just the sound of buzzing bees were played from the hive, the elephants managed to quickly establish that the threat was not real. Now those are some jumbo smarts. Bee therapy. You'd think after all we learned that most people would get as far away from a bee.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would. I would. I don't understand people who like bee therapy. I don't understand people who like bees in general. But I don't understand the bee therapy. Like what is I'm pretty sure he's probably about to explain it, but like I don't understand bee therapy. I've heard of bee therapy before, but I don't get it.
Sting as possible. Well, if that's your take, then you're in for a surprise, because some people think it's good for them. I'm talking about apitherapy, otherwise known as bee venom therapy, which is the name for medical.
So acupuncture is basically what they're going for. This is acupuncture, but like with bees. Insane.
medical treatments administered through bee stings. Therapy with bee venom can involve receiving up to 40 stings in a single session. Ice is used throughout to numb the skin and reduce pain. The rationale behind apitherapy is that bee stings cause inflammation.
God damn, what happened to your finger? Look at that finger. Jesus Christ, bro. Bro, your cuticles are done. Bro, man, you might want to get that checked out, bro. You gotta pay a visit to Ling Ling or something. Damn, your cuticles are done, sir.
And therefore trigger an anti-inflammatory response in the body. This could potentially benefit people with muscular conditions like MS, but other people just like it because wherever there's a crazy health fad, there's a group of even crazier people undergoing the treatment. In 2005, a clinical trial compared people with MS who received bee venom therapy every week with those who received no treatment. After 24 weeks measuring elements like fatigue and quality of life, the results were in. And drumroll please, absolutely no difference was found between the two groups. Well, thank God no one's told Gwyneth Paltrow about this yet. Who knew there was so much behind one little bee sting? Have you ever been stung yourself? Or do you have any incredible tales stemming from a single sting? Let me know down in the comments below. And thanks for watching.
Okay. All right, this is a cool This is a cool video. I'm probably not gonna. Let me see. This was a cool video. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of thoroughly invested, sort of, kind of. So yeah, that was that. If you guys enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends. Again, I'm just looking for stuff to react to. I'm trying to just make some content because I'm gonna be in the process of moving soon. So I'm trying to find things to react to give you guys some sort of content while I'm going to be gone and dealing with this move. So basically for the entire month of May, I will be gone, but I'm gonna try to post some content here and there, some reaction videos, uh, if I can, get them all recorded before I have to break down my stuff. Like right now, I'm recording this on the 20th. Man, I can't read my own handwriting. Jesus, hold on. The 19th is on a Saturday, 20, 21, 22, 26, 27. I'm recording this on the 27th. I forgot. I forgot. I have on my computer too. Shit, I'm tripping. I'm recording all these videos on the 27th of April, and I'm going to record even more videos on the 28th, and then I will, edit all of the videos this coming Friday, because that will be my next day off because I have to work the entire weekend, and then I will schedule upload all those videos, and then post them throughout, maybe not the entire month of May, but like the first couple weeks. So yeah, so that's what's going on. But we're moving again. I probably made a video explaining that because I'm gonna have it post on May 9th, because that'll be the final day I'll be in this house. So I'll have it posted for May 9th, and then we'll go from there. Of course, by the time you see this video, this already happened. So yeah. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, share with your friends, like, comment, favorite, share, subscribe if you're new and all that good stuff, and all my links to all my social media in the description box down below. And until my next video, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Later.